Krav Maga is one of the most popular self-defense practices in the world. It is also one of the most controversial ones. Some people claim that it is the best, while others say that it is the worst. Personally, I was skeptical about Krav Maga for a long time, but recently I saw an example of it that impressed me. The footage that made me reconsider my opinion about Krav Maga featured Itay Gil, an Israeli Special Forces commander who used to be an operative member in the famous Yamam counter-terrorist unit, to which he is now an instructor himself. Once I saw his training methods, I knew I had to contact Itay and ask him if the way he teaches Krav Maga is the rule or the exception. What makes a good Krav Maga school, and whether he's skeptical of the way Krav Maga is in the world right now himself.
I looked at some of your work and some of the videos you present, and actually you're doing something that you probably don't even know the science behind, but you are doing something that I refer to the crash test. When you and I have an argument about which car is the best in safety, and we hit a wall in 60 miles an hour straight, and then in 60 miles an hour at 45 degrees angle, and you measure how much energy goes into the cockpit in the crash test dummy, with all the electrodes and electronics to measure the impact. And the dummy that has the least damage or minimizes damage, it means the cockpit is a safer environment. And many of the crash tests, by the way, are done with no logo and brand on the car. So no one really knows. So the laboratory is not biased by, it's a Jaguar, it's a Mercedes, and everybody receives the same treatment. What you're doing is, when you're doing your videos with Jesse from the Karate Guy or whoever, Thai boxing, whatever you do, it's like you're actually saying, because you're an expert in Aikido, does all these things on the elbows, the joints, will work on someone who's really aggressive, really strong in a real confrontation. So it's funny when I saw what you're doing, is because my research is all about performance under stress. And I don't know how many videos of mine you saw. I built in the late 90s, early 2000s, these CQB rooms in my training center where I thought, when people are confronted with a stressful moment in a physical confrontation, first thing is, in most of the cases, these acts of violence are so short, I refer to them as a burst. It's like from 0.5 seconds to 4 or 5 seconds, if it's a combination of punches or not even organized, but violence, can be a bottle, it can be an object, can be a knife, a screwdriver, a gun, metal pipe. So how will we react to those environments? And then I said, wait a second, why not bring my military experience into the civilian world and build what we refer to CQB and do the crash test inside of a small, where there is no liberty to run around like in a ring. There's no, so you see what you and I refer to sparring. We get to assess and measure the partner in front of us. There's rules of engagement. So you and I touch gloves, with gloves, without gloves, depends on the style. We touch hands when we're on our knees grappling, for example. You've done that. If you're judo, we bow. If we're kickboxers, we touch gloves, and there's some type of rule. Are you ready? Do you know? Well, we're gonna go. Even if it's relatively hard, there's still protective gear. And the other thing, compared to combat soldiers, is I've been asked about this several times. What is more tougher to participate in? Being like an MMA well-known fighter in the ring, with rules and everything. And I say to people, if you go into the science specifically, that's given athlete has an amazing cardio to challenge those extreme demands in a sport environment. But if something goes wrong, there's quite a few options. The referee may intervene and stop. Option number 2, you can tap out. Number 3, if the judge didn't intervene, you didn't tap out, your coach can throw in a white towel. So the chances of you really dying are possible in the ring from a real bad blow to the skull and you have a hematoma inside your brain. I mean, there are risks, but the military guy, the policeman, the fighter, when he has to run into the fighter and save the family, there's no tapping out. It needs to be done. If you're a paramedic, a trauma expert in the military, under fire, treating someone with an extremely terrible amputation and wound and half the face is missing and fluids from the brain are all over, does he have the liberty to freeze and say, I can't do this, not now? See, so it's a different philosophy, but what I'm trying to do is to create resilience in people. You need to smash them, you need to crash them so they can understand there's a price for everything we do and there's consequences. So if you want to say, and when I saw your video about Krav, and you want to say, oh, I'm an expert in hand-to-hand combat. Really, are you? Let's go inside the rooms and do a crash test. Put it under pressure. And people got, so even the highest level ranks, without mentioning their names, from all over the world, guys that have 4th degree in Krav Maga, 5th degree Krav Maga. And I'm not saying that Krav Maga is good, but they trained in a laboratory environment. So the science behind, if it is to be self-defense, and you will not know you're going to be under an attack, there is no rules of it. We're not touching gloves. In the street, there is no touching gloves. There is no protective gear for sparring. There is no MMA gloves, 4 ounce, 8 ounce, 14 ounce. There is nothing. There may be weapons. Can you perform 1 second, 2 seconds, 5, 7 seconds on the confrontation? Can you handle it? Do you get to choose if there's one attacker or multiple attackers? You don't get to choose. It can be low visibility, dark at night, you're in a parking lot. So what I'm trying to say is that when I saw what you're doing, it was like you're doing it in a very sporty fashion, but still you're testing without probably even knowing the science behind it. And I saw, you know what? Someone honest enough to say, this is what it is. It has nothing to do if I like it, I don't like it, I agree, I don't agree. The crash test that I do has nothing to do with Itay Gil as an individual persona. No one gives a shit. You were in the confined space, in the rooms. If I attacked you full scale and you got stabbed several times with video camera, it has nothing to do if I like you and you like me. The result is a result. The question is, can we go back to the sketchboard and say, where did I screw up? Can I do better under stress? I am very involved in the military, and everything I do is based on performance under pressure before I send guys into the field. Everything. The guys in training suffer so much. Most average people will not want to do this kind of training because you got to be, something's wrong with you. You actually really want to be devoted and dedicated to that kind of extreme. And there's no tapping up. You get it wrong, you do it again and again and again, and it requires lots of repetition to get things. And back to your Aikido, so you may be the most gifted Aikido practitioner. Will someone with extreme strength, with zero knowledge of martial arts, manage to jam your physical performance, the biomechanics you wish to execute? You want to grab a guy. So years ago, many years ago, I had a guy that he was like from the country, Georgia. He never did martial arts in his life, but he was like world-class strength performance expert, like powerlifting, like competitive top league, with a neck like a Hulk. You could not believe the trapezius in the shoulders, like the biceps. And he was also ranked like top 3, 4 in the world in arm wrestling. So he had biceps like 55 centimeters, very low body fat. So he was not bodybuilder, beautiful, but he was a mini Hulk. And so the guys that do top class judo, like Olympic team, I brought him to do against the best judo players. And because he has the ability to explode and lift such heavy weights, even when he was doing judo against a guy that's like Israeli national team like 20 years ago, 132 kilos. He lifted him and he put him on his back 5 times like an ippon. He didn't even know it's an ippon. Just because he had so much superior strength to jam and control the leverage of the guy. Like he got you in the gi, it was like you'd been welded. You couldn't do anything. You could not break the grip. It was like when you're a world-class level arm wrestling, does that make a difference? Yes, it does. So us discarding an extreme force of strength that is very unique. So there's a lot of strong guys, but then there's extremely strong. And then what about a guy crazy and psychopath? Not necessarily strong, but he's willing to go all the way. So the mental conditions, physical conditions, the will to win. So if you look at lions when they hunt, you know, they know they're going to get smashed from the horns of the buffalo, but they still are willing to take a risk because they want to eat. And then when I look at these comparisons, military, civilian, and what people do out there, I think that's what I'm looking to achieve every morning I wake up. And when I train people in the service or civilians and people want my opinion, it's okay if people disagree with my opinion. And I mean, people have their rights to say whatever they want. I mean, I disagree with my wife sometimes, and that's fine too. So it is what it is. So I thought, when I saw what you're doing, I was like, I enjoyed it. It made me smile. And you did it in a real humble presentation, like you're not talking negative about anybody in specific. It's just a very clear look in the eye and say, this is what I think. And I like it. So here we are talking.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate hearing that. And I'm also curious to ask, because when I look at the self-defense world, and a lot of it comes from watching videos, seeing them on YouTube, and a lot of it is, in my experience, in my opinion, bad self-defense, especially like some of them have millions of views. And I did a lot of investigation, a lot of research, and I wouldn't say enough, but plenty to look at those videos and realize, okay, I'm pretty certain this would not work, or I would try some things and they would not work for me, and yet alone for a tiny woman. So actually, first of all, is that your impression of when you look at what self-defense, how self-defense is represented online? Do you have a concern about that as well?
Well, I have what we called discussions in the locker room, if you heard that term, like in private groups when I travel or do my trainings with people. Itay, what do you think about that video? Without going into names, and we're not looking to shame anybody. And what do you look about that? So for example, let's differentiate and slice the pie. So for example, I see guys that you can definitely see they have an excellent background in some type of martial art. They have fantastic physique, excellent control. I would say if it's a stand-up or ground, and I would say you would observe the biomechanic and the functions of the body. They are real good strikers with their hands. They defend, they move. So you would say, oh, that guy definitely did Kyokushin or Thai boxing. In a matter of seconds, I would say if a guy is from a judo background based on stance, grappler, wrestler, and so on. And those are amazing skills. Does that necessarily say he knows real good self-defense? That's where the trick comes in. So those who do not have a really sharp and trained eye may be deceived, because a lot of the moves that are done from someone who has an amazing background in martial art, and he may be legit, but he studied a little bit Krav, and now he's a Krav expert. That is a slippery slope. So in my past, I did judo. So in judo, you have niwaza, groundwork, right? I did Russian sambo from the days of Patrick Beaton in the mid-90s. I was doing a little bit BJJ on and off. I think I have a blue belt from someone. Patrick Beaton gave me a blue belt years and years ago. I went to Paris. I did a little grappling. As a judo guy, I managed pretty good. Stand-up was superior. Ground, I had to struggle, but I managed. My sambo was okay. I'm not claiming to be any champion or anything, but the groundwork was relatively familiar. The Russian sambo gave me leg lock. So saying, when I look at all those sets of skills, they're still done in a sport environment. And that's what I'm trying to explain. I don't know if you saw one of my television shows from years ago, I believe it was 2008, where it was called on History Channel, The Human Weapon. You can research it. And you'll see two very well known for the time, very strong, fit, athletic guys that are like MMA fighters, Bill Duff, Jason Chambers. They did a tour around the world where they challenged different styles of martial arts. They went to Russia, they did sambo, they did in France, Savate, they did taekwondo in Korea. And then I think the last episode was they came to Israel to learn Krav Maga. I was one of the specialists that was training them, and then we took them to one of the counter-terror bases to fight. And one of the first tests we did, I did a crash test. The first video is at my training center. You can probably find it and trace it somewhere, where I take one of my instructors that is a physical guy, but nothing extraordinary, but an aggressive guy. I gave him a rubber knife, and I said to both of the guys that were doing the challenge, do you know how to defend yourself from a knife? And he said, yeah, sure. Full scale, you can see, I think, 11 stabs. In slow motion, you can see the ribs under the armpit. So it was terrible. Then the other guy did the challenge, and he got stabbed in the neck several times, and the guy grabbed him and he stabbed him more and more. And I said, it's funny that when I looked at the video and I said, you guys don't know jack shit about self-defense. It was just those kind of words, like, so, and that's what I'm trying to say. You being an athlete in a condition of an athletic environment is actually bad for us. The mindset you need to require to go from 0 to 100 when there's an extreme confrontation with. So if I'm standing with my hands, I'm going to stand up. If I'm standing with my hands in the pocket and I'm talking to you at close proximity, you do not know if there's a blade or it's a hook. A cheap shot. You do not know. The time reaction is way too short. So we did a test. If you think it's just a hook and you're going to cover it, and it is a screwdriver, do you think the flesh of the bicep will stop a screwdriver from penetrating? What do you think? It will go through, just like butcher cuts meat.
Right.
So if you did what kickboxers do when they protect the ribs from middle kicks and hooks and uppercuts, right? If that was a blade, do you think the biceps or the flesh, only if it got jammed in the bone, it may not go through? That would mean miraculous, you're lucky. With the guy that stabs, does he stab once or does he stab many?
Many usually.
So the guy doesn't stab and stop. So when you see videos about what we're talking, Krav guys, or they stab once, I call this the Pinocchio syndrome. They stab, you block, you grab the hand, you do some type of disarm. The truth is, it has nothing to do with reality. Unfortunately, I see other people that wear military clothing, vests, so they appear as military expert. Possibly they are, and they did serve in the military, and they have two blades in their hands, two, not even one, two, and they're doing something that appears to be Kali or Silat. I'm not an expert on it. I know very little about it. That's the way you would fight with the blade in a Russian-Ukrainian confrontation right now going on? Would you challenge a soldier with two blades? Aren't you supposed to change magazines in your rifle or have a gun? What about your teammates next to you? Would they not retaliate? So the chances of we do have a knife in a vest. Would I use those techniques? Slashing? The answer is no. Most of the enemies would have full vest. So where would you would just go for puncture wounds if you did. And it would be, there's probably just neck under the armpit and lower abdomen and between the crotch, between the groin area where there's big blood vessels. That's it in the military. 3-4 moves and penetration. There's no slashing and cutting. Maybe in some Filipino militaries, it looks really good and sexy. It sells probably too. Maybe they have more clients than I do. Is it real? The answer is no. So I think if I was to wear a white, medical, jacket on with a stethoscope on my neck. And I made a photo, and people would think, oh, he's a doctor. He's a medical doctor.
Mm.
That's not true. So I would even use the word maybe deceiving or different styles of marketing. It's not a crime. It's not a crime. But would the client know the difference of quality? And that's another story. So, it is what it is. It's a difficult market. Everybody does something. A lot of people claim they're black belts in BJJ, and they're not. A lot of people say they're special forces. They're not. A lot of people say I'm a Navy SEAL. They're not.
Mm.
I'm not saying I'm a black belt in BJJ because I'm not. I'm only a blue belt, and I've not practiced Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu seriously for so many years. I grappled with some guys. I know this little I can handle, but I'll tap out most of the time with the real good guys. It's okay. It's part of the learning process, isn't it?
Right. And it's a
So
specific
having no ego is really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, you learn. You don't say I know everything. Nobody knows everything.
Mm. Well, since you mentioned that situation of the difficulty for people to tell what's a good school and what's not, and I see this question floating around online. Krav Maga is very popular, and there's a lot of schools out there, but because there is a certain level of skepticism about it, some people are hesitant. Should they go to that school or not? And most importantly, how can a potential client decide whether this school is worth attending, or actually they would be better off finding something else?
Well, it's a challenging question. I'm not sure I have the accurate answer. I'll say this. First of all, something that I would refer to the laws of attraction. So let's say you're a parent, you have a 10-year-old kid. You want him to learn Krav Maga, self-defense, and won't be bullied in school. Probably you'll go on Google and search in your area. Let's say you live somewhere in the United States in San Francisco, and you're going to look in your area, or you live in Baltimore, Maryland, or wherever, Colorado, Texas. You're going to go, oh, that's really close to my house. That's in a gym nearby. So if I were to challenge the parents to choose to go to a real low level school, or to drive an extra hour and a half to a real good school, they would choose the closer school. So that's issue number one. But again, there may be parents that are like, say, no, I will not settle for average for my money, no way. Just like I want the best violin teacher for my son, I'm not going to settle for an average violin teacher. Just like I would not go for a medical treatment for an average doctor. But that's the thing. Would I let my little kid swim in a swimming pool with a lifeguard that can't swim? So when I do the crash, and this isn't all crash tips, everything needs to be questioned with a doubt. So comfort is part of resilience. Do you want your son really to be able to handle bullies in school? Isn't that a part of his future as a persona, as a grown up man? He'll be able to have a more relaxed and comfortable life? Or will you let him be bullied all his life and it's like, oh, it is what it is. I can't help him. Yes, you can. Every parent should help their child if he's bullied and choose a real good school. Now, does it have to be just Krav Maga? The answer is no. They can go and find great grapplers, great BJJ schools or judo schools. So first of all, learn the word called discipline. What about waking up in the morning and having a regime? What about doing fitness? What about talking about strength? What about talking about nutrition? There's so many young people out there, even a medium age, like in their 20s and 30s, adults that are so overweight. Am I wrong? And they don't treat their body the best. So people want to perform in a martial arts school and do stuff that athletes do, but they're not in the right physical conditioning to change the mindset, to be willing to be with the cardio, the strength of the muscles, the ligaments, to be able to do maneuvers, throws, lift, the strength around the spine, core strength in the abdomen. I do fitness every day. I'm 59. I don't get any days to relax. There is no relaxing. My mother used to say to me, you'll relax when you're dead. And that's true. You need to wake up and have a plan. I don't want to be bullied. I don't want to be overweight. I want to be healthy. What are you doing about it? That's one step before self-defense and martial arts. Because when you look really fit and healthy, isn't that a message to the people around you in the wolf pack? Like, he looks really fit, I'm staying away. Does it make sense? Who are the people that are bullied? Tell me. The kids that their self-esteem is low, they don't have confidence. I mean, the kid does not know because it's the parent responsibility. I try also to talk to parents. I do a lot of speeches in front of parents. I work with kids 17, 18 years old before they want to go into the military to try to motivate them. Are you happy when you wake up in the morning? Are you trying to change? If you're not happy, are you trying to discover what bothers you? Are you willing to make an effort to change it? It's way before the punch and the kick. You need to be here and here a happy person. If you don't love yourself, no one's going to love you. And martial arts make people love themselves. They feel really good about themselves after they struggled and sweated and bleeded a long time. I'm a good striker. I'm a good grappler. It's like, it's an evolution. It doesn't happen in a day. There's no magic wand, suddenly. And by the way, this is my whole topic, resilience and performance again and crash testing. It's the chain of words that most of the people in our industry never mention, never talk about. Have you ever heard about anybody talk about the crash test or resilience? No, nobody. Only when you talk to military personnel, you'll hear those words probably. So if you listen to some well-known guys that had serious struggles and they're famous on YouTube, he was taking a beating as a child, he struggled, he this, and he became a Navy SEAL. He struggled. He wanted to make a difference. He could have chosen to stay a fat bastard. And there's plenty of examples like that. So we all make our choices. Do you want your son to be trained by an average? That's the question. If you're an adult, will you pay money for someone, an average, to train you? I can't answer that. So that's why I said it's a real complicated question. If it's close, it's comfortable, but it doesn't mean it's the right decision. You see what I'm saying? Am I honest enough and fair enough? So I come with clean hands and say, are we doing the right thing? If I did want to go down that line. If you want to be a musician, go ahead, be the best. You want to be a chef, really want to know how to slice, cut, make amazing dishes, pastries, bakery, be a master in it. You want to be a lifeguard, sure you know how to swim, and so and so. In everything, there's a scale and a measurement. In everything, that's what I do. I set standard scales and measurements. Is that good performance? Is that bad performance? That's what I do. That's my research. So the people that are going to be listening to your podcasts, if they listen, they would have to ask their questions. Are they following, not because they've been forced, no one's forcing anybody. Do they want to do the right thing for their children or for themselves? What about treating myself with a real good, expensive coach? Is it because so many people buy junk food and completely unnecessary, expensive jewelry and different type of style, designer, really expensive clothes that gives you zero in your real life? That's not a skill. It's nothing. You're hiding under some type of camouflage or a mask or playing this type of cool persona, but you're not. You're not confident. You're not resilient. You're not strong. You struggle at night. You struggle with your partner. You're not doing well at your work. You've been bullied. You have a boss that drives you mad. And I can take this on and on and on, like in a real deep lecture about. It's all about human behavior and our performance. What stops us from being happy and pursuing the right thing for us? Like I said, it doesn't have to be a martial art. It can be anything else. But if you did choose a martial art, choose a badass school. Go to if it's a martial art, we talked about grappling because you do MMA, you said, but go to a school where the guy has a record of like he's an accomplished, fighter, where he trains people to be champions. So he has a record. And where the drills, the physical conditioning is extremely demanding and going to make you so fatigued and so exhausted you want to quit. he wants to make you quit, but you don't want to. And I'm not talking about any safety issues. I'm talking about just as a character. Today I'm not going to go to the gym. Do you know how many days I wake up in the morning, my body hurts, and I'm saying I'm not going to do my routine? Like I say, just fuck it. I don't give a shit. I'm just going to smash it. Pain, no pain, just going to go and kill it. So when I do 10 sets of 10 pull-ups in the morning, 100 pull-ups and 100 squats and 120 push-ups, and I do shoulder presses, about 80 to 100 sets, and I do squats, and like, I don't give myself a break. And I made a choice in life. I want to be healthy. So my kids, one of my friends, high-level Secret Service guy, said to me, he saw me on video. I put the video outside on WhatsApp on video, and he saw me doing 7 o'clock in the morning pull-ups. He says, "What's wrong with you? Why 7 in the morning?" He says, "Why do you do this every day?" I said, "Not for me, it's for my children. I want my kids to see their daddy does it every day." What role model are you? So the martial art is an amazing set of skills to solve so many problems that you would pay a fortune on a psychiatrist. Just go do a martial art, smash the bag, bam, 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 do explosive drills on the bag. No partner. Do push-ups, run, jump, swim, do something. Endorphins will be released into your bloodstream, and you'll say, "Wow, I've done something useful with my body today. I feel happy." And why do you do martial arts? No one's forcing you to wake up in the morning and do martial arts. You do MMA, you probably get smashed sometimes. You get injured sometimes, right? You have a pulled joint, ligaments, it hurts. And we still go back and do it, right? Because what is better, sitting on the sofa, changing channels, watching a soap opera? Wiping your tears from somebody having a tragedy or something? Get your shit together and do something. That's my philosophy. I'm a direct shooter. I don't hold back. I mean, I try to be polite to people, but when they start whining and complaining, "Oh, I'm fat, I'm a little bit overweight, I should do something," I said, "Yeah, what are you doing about it? What are you doing about it? You're not happy. You're miserable. You're not doing anything." So way before you start talking about, punching, kicking, real good self-defense, first of all, treat your body well. One of the ways is getting in a martial arts school or a Krav school where there's going to be hopefully good fitness with a real good coach, and he will teach you real good self-defense, focused on self-defense, not on you tap out, like pressure. Can he push you? That's my philosophy. Try to get as realistic as possible. Some schools do it more, some schools do it less. Again, it depends on the age of the students, little kids, no pressure yet. Let them develop the proper functional movement, biomechanics, strength, flexibility, build coordination, build confidence, I would say. So those are the things that a parent should look, or an adult, when he chooses by himself, what to look for. Is he in a group of real inspiring people that will elevate him, or people that will drag him down and say, "Oh, you're shit, you're nothing, you're nobody"? Depends on the school, right? You may have an abusive coach, you may have a real inspiring coach. Punching and kicking doesn't mean the guy is a good guy. It's all about persona again. So I hope what I'm saying reaches out to people, and they can relate to what I'm saying, and it makes them feel like, what, this guy knows his shit. So that's pretty much it. Straight to the point.
You mentioned just now that element of crash testing, and you spoke about it before. And I wonder, would you say if somebody is, because I think there's a dilemma if somebody does want to spend as much as they need to, time, energy, and money. Like that was interesting enough. That was in a way my case, where I wanted to learn self-defense because I was growing up in a rough city. But then I was directed to Aikido, and it doesn't work for self-defense, but I was devoting myself completely for it. I was spending all the money, going there every day, training twice per day, and I did that for years. And silly me for not understanding soon enough that that's not the way to go through self-defense, but nobody else guided me. So in a way, I feel like care for those people who want to put themselves out there, who are willing to put themselves on the line, pay the money, whatever they need to do, but they don't know how to really choose the right place. And I was wondering if, let's say for self-defense, if that crash testing element is something you would look for. So let's say if somebody calls you and says, Itay, I want to go to this Krav Maga school, but I don't know if I should completely devote myself to it or not. Is there something you would suggest for that person to look for and say, is that there or not there?
Well, in many of the schools that I have trained them and qualified instructors around the world, like last year I was in Arizona with a great gentleman, Joe Edmondson, and I was also in with Jonathan, Marion, and Tiffany, his lady partner, in their school in Atlanta, Georgia. And they trained Krav before they met me with other organizations. So they were familiar. They had basic good striking. Joe's like a world-class taekwondo, really high-level competitive, and the other guys were like a little bit BJJ, strength training and so on, but really good people. And in both occasions when I arrived, the first thing that I said, let's do a small drill to see if you guys can perform with a little bit stress. I didn't go full scale, but I was aggressive, like a burst of 3 seconds of aggression with a knife. The gun defense that I teach that is completely different than all the other schools. And the baton that I use, I don't know if you saw videos of people getting smashed in the baton. It's not the classic one you put the hand and it's choreographed. It's not Pinocchio syndrome. And they got smashed pretty bad. We did also gun versus knife for law enforcement with something called real action marker. It's a gun that works on compressed gas and shoots rubber pellets. It's really painful. So for safety, we use that with eye goggles, and it really bruises you. You will bleed at close range. It hurts really bad.
Okay.
And then, so we did drills, try to steal the gun from the holster of a policeman, try to stab in close proximity, take him to the ground, take the gun. So we did pretty much like 85, 90%. We did watch for not to injure anyone, but we went really hard. In some of my videos, you'll see we have motorcycle helmets. We actually headbutt full scale into another motorcycle helmet. Elbows, taking the gun and smashing the helmet with a metal gun. Yeah. So the idea is to create an environment where the instructor, once I'm gone, he has a toolbox. And I advise all the instructors to build 1 or 2 small rooms like an elevator. Put 2 people inside, put a GoPro on top, 2 cameras on the side, 3, 2, 1, go, 3 seconds, who survives? You don't get it good enough, go again. Actually, this is a really extreme and exhausting drill. Now, I already have quite a few schools. I mean, I've trained, I'm estimating hundreds and hundreds of instructors and probably tens of thousands in my many years in Korea, where a lot of people know my style in training, that it's no pulling back, very dynamic and aggressive, straight to the point. Some love it, some prefer others. I would say organizations or styles, and that's fair enough too. It's just like a food in a restaurant. And I would tell people, my audience at least, that's listening to us right now, if you're going to go to a school, ask if they do any full-on drills with like full protection, but like really aggressive. Do they really, push to the limit? Everybody needs to understand when they do any kind of martial art, there's always risk of injury. So we are participating in a risky business with voluntary will. No one's forcing anyone to do MMA, BJJ. Like we both know people who do MMA and they dislocate or rip a muscle, correct? It's possible.
Sure.
And same in Krav. You may not defend well and get a blue eye. It's part of the game. If you're not willing to take risks, it may be, a challenge. For those who want to go, so I would say there's the basic level, there's their intermediates, and then there's the advanced one. Those who are more confident and willing to go full scale, I'm okay. I'm not afraid. If you see bare knuckle boxing, bare knuckle boxing is the cleanest form. That's what actually happens in the street. There is no boxing glove. If you told people in sparring, let's go pretty hard, bare knuckle, 99.9% would reject that. Am I right?
Sure. Yeah.
But that's the ultimate test, isn't
Mm.
it? That's the ultimate test. So when I was in the service and I was training counter-terror warfare teams, one of the tests to see how far people are willing to go is I would tell two soldiers in the training, you have 5 seconds, bare knuckles. You're supposed to go straight line, no jumping around, no looking for an angle, straight line, go full scale, bare knuckle. If you're jumping around, you're not willing to take risk. That's one of the things that I do in selection. Are you willing to go all the way to save your teammate that's injured? Will you go straight line to kill the enemy if you need to in a battle, bare knuckles? Or you're going to jump around and, assess. There is no time for assessing in the battlefield. And that's a mindset. Doesn't mean people need to do what I'm saying, but it's a mindset. If you needed to go bare knuckles, 99% of the agree say no. But in the street, you get to say, wait a second, put on gloves. You see, so I'm talking reality, but most people never want to practice reality. So here you go. Are you okay with going bare knuckles for 3 seconds, 5 seconds? That's what a confrontation is. It's not fun, but you need to be able mentally to say, I'm going from 0 to 100 straight line, no ifs or buts. You see, when I tell people, what would happen if you needed to defend your children? Are you going to be jumping around, assessing, measuring? Oh, I'm going to get a good low kick. I'm going to get a good side kick. I'm going to grab his wrist and, Sankyo, Nikyo, throw him over. There's a gun pointed. There's a home invasion. Someone's trying to rape your daughter. Whatever it is, there's a lot of crime out there and violence. Would you be able to perform? Here you go again. So is Itay Gil speaking the truth? Am I a little bit extreme? Am I so different? I think that's the honest truth, and most people are not willing to confront it. It is what it is. In my service, I've seen a lot of extreme violence and terrorism. Most people do not see eye to eye what I exactly saw. They have not walked in my shoes, and therefore their training is made for, and I agree on that, and that's another dilemma. Listen, I'm a business. I don't want any more injuries. I don't need any lawsuits. I don't want any drugs in my school. I just want them to learn bam, 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 360. I'm happy with that. That's good. It pays my bills. That's a discussion to have too. So it depends who's your clients. Those who want basic level, do the business with it. Those who want intermediate, keep the business running with it. Those, you may have a small group that want to go like really more with intention, more, physical, like policemen, like paramedics, ambulance drivers, firefighters, taxi people, they get robbed all the time or mugged. Let a woman feel if she's going to be raped and attacked by one guy, two guys, what is she willing to do to survive? So the idea is you ask the client if he's willing to participate, you have a contract with him, let's go. If he's not, that's fine, he's a business. And business is important in our industry, I will not deny that. I think all instructors should have the ability to do a great service to the client, earn a lot of money. I wish all of them to make a lot of money, but also to keep a little bit of reality, if possible. And again, it's okay if many of your people that will listen to this will not agree with me. That's fine too. It's my personal opinion.
You mentioned police, and from exploring the subject of self-defense and all the subjects around it, I was exposed to the subject a number of times that there is apparently an issue in many police training programs where they're actually not crash testing or they're learning, let's say, as much as I love Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, that's, let's say, everything they learn and that's it, which is good to some degree, but I think you mentioned there's so many variables of multiple attackers, weapons, and that changes the game completely. but then they go through like a week or 2 weeks training per year at best of training, which is not pressure tested. There's no crash testing. And then they're demanded or expected to perform well under stressful situations. So I wonder, first of all, have you bumped into such cases where police training is lacking?
I've spoken to a lot of police. When my last trip in the US, as I mentioned, we went to a SWAT facility and we trained a group of SWAT guys, and we also had guys from the Marines. And I don't remember the name of the program they have, but a lot of it is based on groundwork in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as a self-defense. And one of the questions I asked the guys, are you wearing full gear in training? And he said, no. I said, when you go to Iraq and Afghanistan as a Marine, you have a helmet, full vest, 6 magazines, and you're with like 28, 32 kilos. Do you believe you're actually going to go to the ground? So let's divide it into two. I'll try to clarify it. So would I want intentionally to take someone to the ground to make him quit fighting? That's question number one. If someone took me to the ground, I agree to having great control on the ground. So I do believe having some sets of skills for all law enforcement, all military personnel, it's good to have a fair balance of cross-training. So they need to know something on the ground, a life-saving skill of balance, choke, escape, and so on and so forth. Every coach will decide the level. The question is, and this is the magical question, I even talk about it in my lectures when I talk to high-level military people, is that there's two things. Let's talk about the crash test again. Job description. Let's talk about what does the policeman need to know? What are the threats for the policeman? So if you want to handcuff me, control me, and restrain me, and I am deciding to resist, you will need some type of leverage and force to control the hand in some type of fashion. We can argue about what style, more jiu-jitsu, aikido, BJJ, we can argue about a name, but the concept is, I need to get handcuffs on your wrist, put it behind your back and do a search on you that you're not with any sharp object on you. Maybe the policeman will choose to do a search before the guy is handcuffed. Depends on the policy. If he uses extreme force, then there's another equation. How much force is justified force? If you look at what's happening in politics, most policemen are always blamed for police brutality. So the sets of skills a policeman needs are to have what I refer to as soft solution, because I'm a witness expert in court as well on extreme use of force in the Israeli justice system. So I testify in front of judges on use of force. So if a guy's trying to reach for my gun and I use brute force to strike him, would that be legit? Well, the risk of taking my gun may get me killed. So it's a thin line. Would I want to go to the ground and struggle with the guy? Probably not. I have excellent case studies where, especially in Brazil, I trained police in Brazil. One of my top instructors in Brazil, Clesio, real high level Krav guy, BJJ, I think purple belt. I think he was like, I don't remember the exactly no-gi. He won like some big championship in Brazil, no-gi. So he knows grappling pretty good. In his club, there's a lot of policemen, and many of them are like 4th degree, 5th degree black belts in the BJJ, and a lot do valetudo. So the criminals in Brazil train as well. So it's balanced out. So when cops want to get a bad guy in Brazil, many of them go to the gym and they're street fighters, man. And there's weapons all the time. So when I'm speaking to Clesio and his group, when I was there, policemen, I asked them, why do you want to learn Krav Maga? What's wrong with your Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? Said, no good, no good. I said, really? Said, no, because the cops have been indoctrinated to grab and go to the guard and take the guy to the ground, and he pulls out a knife and he starts stabbing. So you are working in an environment where you think there's rules, but there are no rules, even though you are a policeman. So because you've been doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for 25 years, you've been in the police 5 years. So I was astonished from that kind of information. They said, no, we need to learn how to do other techniques. So I would say this, that overall, I think from all the styles of self-defense out there, if the Krav Maga is done well by a coach that has, I would say, good experience, he would do by far a much more better service in self-defense only, not in a sport, than most of the martial arts out there. Because until you know it's a punch or a blade, or there's one-on-one or two-on-one, or there's a gang and so on. So those sets of skill, so when I talk about Krav, the first lesson is observation. I am looking to see what, so for example, if you and I had a street confrontation, where would I position my hand? So a lot of people walk face to face, do a face off. I'm trying to play the alpha male, right? I'm the alpha. You see the guy with his hand behind his back, bam, 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 2, 3 stabs, game over, you bleed out, you die. Me actually, and by the way, as an expert in court, and this is for the audience that's listening, if someone is trying to have a confrontation with you, if you're standing like this or like this, what do you think the judge sees from the security cameras? You tell me.
Well, this is fighting position, seems like the aggressor, versus this shows that you're defending, I presume.
So I would say, hey, stay away from me, but I can still cover. I can trap the hands, I can go inside, I can lift, I can throw, I can strike, I can hit open palm. So first of all, the observation is body language. Do I see 2 hands? But if one hand is reaching for the pocket, going behind the back, you're not getting flowers, you're not getting money. You will be, something dirty is coming. So the first line of defense is observation and awareness, your orientation and awareness. Where do I see the exits? Do I see where I'm standing? I'm in a small pub, in a nightclub. So when you go to an athletic gym that trains you on martial art, taekwondo, BJJ, no one ever talks about where to position yourself in a room if something goes wrong. If there's an active shooter walking into the room and starts shooting, if the guy comes in and starts stabbing, as a security expert, I can tell you thousands of cases of shootings in public places, in churches, mosques, synagogues, nightclubs, theaters, Kenya shooting in Nairobi in a shopping center. And so I can go and do like a full security brief here and tell people, what's the chances of being engaged in an extreme act of terrorism or extreme crime? You want to talk about what's going on in South Africa? Like, there's a lot of crime around the world and people think, oh, I'm in the safe zone. That's why I tell people, prepare, learn how to swim. You know, if your kid is drowning, learn self-defense, learn life-saving skills, learn CPR, learn how to make a tourniquet, improvise weapons. If you have a pen, here you go. I got a pen. A pen is the #1 weapon in the world. It's not harmful, but with enough force, it will go into soft tissue, right? So if you stab someone in the face in self-defense, if a female is being attacked by a guy in the street, people will ask me, what should I do? I say, carry a pen in your hand. It's not illegal. Walk with a pen in your hand. You're not a great fighter against a real strong guy, but he grabs you and you punch him, wound him in the face 3 or 4 times. His reaction would be to leave and cover the injury. This will make serious bruised soft tissue, face, throat, eyes. So everything is so simple. So there you go.
There's one quick question that just came up for me listening to what you said, which I'm personally curious to ask. So you mentioned about the pen, carrying it as a self-defense weapon, which sounds like a really great idea. I'm also thinking though about that psychological element of, like, even if I would imagine myself like punching someone, no problem, you know, I'm sparring all the time, and so it would feel, I would presume, natural. But then puncturing someone with a pen, I feel there's almost like a mental blockage in me, which would be, I don't know if that hesitation would come up, or a survival instinct would kick in, or what would happen.
Well, you forgot, you told me you're 87 kilos, so you're not the regular character that would be attacked, although you may be attacked by 2 or 3 guys.
Sure.
So your dimensions, your physical dimensions, sending out a signal, just like all the animals in the nature. Those who prey on animals prey on the weaker ones. You know, I mean, it would be extremely challenging for certain leopards or from the big cat families to go and get a real big animal by itself. It's possible, but they prefer to work in a pack. Lions, you know, look at the wolves and so on, and we know. So I compare can compare parallels,
Mm.
but you're not the classic case. But let's say there's a nice female in her mid-20s. She left the train station relatively late. She's walking by herself. She passed in the street, low light. Lights are not working so well. 2, 3 guys walking after her.
Mm.
There's plenty of videos on YouTube of violence, people beating up a woman, dragging her into the bush and doing whatever they do. And, I got daughters. So you ask yourself, what would you do? If you knew your life is at risk, actually someone is going to kill you, would you start jab, cross, hook, uppercut, jump around and spar?
Mm.
That's a legit question, isn't it? If you knew someone is going to try to kill you, would you jump around? First of all, you can run away if you can, but if you're in a confined space, that's where the pressure comes in. So you do not know where it's going to happen. So if you're a female walking into a toilet late at night, do you think a man that really wants to do harm to you would be stopped by the sign that says female only? He'll walk in and do his thing inside the toilet. You're in a confined space again. So here I am talking the truth in reality. And maybe some people are uncomfortable, the way I present it, but it is what it is. Almost every given day you hear of incidents worldwide, United States, UK. I've been involved a little bit in television and stuff. I think in the UK in 2017, there was 40,000 knife attacks against people. 40,000. So you ask yourself, wow, so many people carry blades? And here you go. So we're in a society where it's possible. Are you ready if something happened to you or your family? Can you defend yourself and your family? It's a question, legit one. And that's it.
But I guess I'm also wondering, is there any mental sort of exercise that you would guide people through so that they would click into that survival instinct and would go all out by doing whatever is necessary? Or do you think that people naturally go there?
I push people to the limit. I agree with you. You're asking a real good question. I push people to the limit in training. I do a lot of crash tests. So I put them inside the rooms and I just let them go at it. And they struggle and they die. We record it. We show them on video. You got stabbed multiple times. The results are not in your favor. I encourage them. I say, listen, if I do statistics, so back in the day, I would go inside the room and wait and have whoever is outside. I do not know who's going to be my opponent. So there's, let's say, 20 guys in the gym. 1 or 2, I do not know. So what we call is there's what we call the known and the unknown. So some drills, 1-on-1, you against me, are you ready? And I go real hard. We go a few times, we build a little bit like, you know what? It's bad, but it's not that bad. I'm starting to develop calluses like weightlifters do when doing a lot of pull-ups or, so you develop that, you become a little bit rougher on the outside and here. You've done that, now you're staying inside the room. 2 guys are going to open the door, 3 guys, 1 guy, you don't know what weapon is going to be, so you're dealing now with unknown. So anxiety raises, it creates cortisol. So what I'm doing, I'm creating a microscopic trauma. You will be shocked from the impact. You don't know if it's 1 or 2. They go in the room and it's like the distance is so close and it's bam, 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 bam. You can see plenty of videos on YouTube. There's several. And people get smashed real bad. They say, wow. Even the high rank experts that came from the US and all around the world got smashed so bad. Not to shame them. They're heroes for doing it because most people don't want to do it.
Right.
And they came to me and said, you know what? My Krav Maga is not so good. I got to train on this more. I'm going to change my whole methodology. This is, even now when I was in the US with my buddies and we trained, they said to me, they're building crash test rooms. I said, take an old container, bring it to your outside parking, put old mats on it, and divide it into 2 so you have a maze. So you take a large container and you have a maze, corridor left, right. You don't know who's going to wait for you. You come in one door, you need to leave the other door at the edge. That's a drill. I tell everybody, you want to make a lot of money? That's the formula. Crash test. People want to be challenged. So it's reality. And put cameras inside, even low-cost cameras inside. no big deal. Connected to a computer, you're good to go. Everybody should adopt this life-saving skills. How would I behave in a real extreme violent confrontation against two guys? I don't know. When I did the drills back in the day, I wore full gear motorcycle helmets and everything. Out of 10 full-scale drills, on a good day, I can survive 6. On 4, I'll die. On a bad day, I survive 3, 4, and I die 6 times. So I have one guy pinning me to the wall, and the other guy's dead. I'm trying, I just can't. You need to, in that confined space, find a little bit, maybe a small space that you can find a gap and move and rotate and headbutt. And no fancy kicking, no low kicks, no front kicks, no knee shots. It's so condensed. See what I'm saying? So a lot of the skills that we have in the ring when you see UFC, MMA, there's plenty of room to perform those. It was designed that way, but you take 2 UFC guys and put them in a small room, it will only go down to elbows, headbutts, and maybe short strikes. Knees and legs wouldn't be a factor anymore. If there's a knife, would you use your legs? Would you have enough time to raise your leg and do a big mechanical movement, a front kick? I measured hundreds and hundreds of guys in a front kick against a blade. Almost nobody succeeds. Almost nobody. Statistics are not in favor of a front kick against a knife at close range. Close range. Not when you see the guy running with a knife. If you see the guy running with a knife, run away. Don't stay. The knife is king. People don't get it.
Yeah. There's one thing which is interesting for me that you mentioned that, I mean, you are a self-defense expert. You know, that's very clear. But then you have the clarity that out of 10 of those situations, it doesn't make you immortal and doesn't create a 100% success rate. It raises your success rate way beyond a regular person. But I find what's really interesting is that people who went through those exercises or went through real life situations, they have that humility and they know that they're not immortal. But then you meet these martial artists. Like I met plenty of those Aikido people who they imagined that they would deal with 5 attackers and they would throw them out of the window and Steven Seagal them to pieces. But so it's interesting that there's that kind of dissonance and misunderstanding. Do you ever bump into people who have these unrealistic expectations yourself?
I've seen quite a lot of people live in fantasies, and like I said, I'm not the character that goes out in public and slander. I see a lot of shit. It's not my cup of tea. I don't usually say anything in public. Very rare. If I make a comment, I try to do it with sense of humor a little bit, not to offend anybody. I'll use the terminology, I disagree. So I'm a polite guy. I believe, and that's what you're doing, and I love, and that's why I felt an immediate connection to what you're doing, is because you're bringing with your unique smile, your good looks, and like you're really relaxed when you talk about it. Is this really going to work? And even when you criticize yourself about, does my Aikido work? So years and years and years ago, I had an experience with an Aikido master, a real big name. I don't want to say anything that will shame him. I have a lady cousin that she was a 3rd degree black belt, and it was a real famous Japanese guy that came here to Israel, and he brought his other instructor, some high-level sensei, 4th degree, and she said to me, "Oh, I want you to come and do some Aikido with us. The real high levels, these techniques, they're masters. It really works." I said, "Dear, I'm a relatively high-level judoka. When I hold gi, there's intent to throw. There is. So if you did practice with someone that's a judo guy, and he grabbed you in the gi, you think you would be able to break away the grip from the gi easily and manipulate the wrist and throw him over? I would have a doubt. It would take you extreme amount of effort and time. In that position, you would already position your legs to go to a tayotoshi, uchimate, ippon. So he would take you to the knees and throw you. And that's what I'm trying to say. So I went to that club. I put on a white belt because I'm a white belt in Aikido. I don't know. But she said, oh, that's not fair. You can't put on a white belt. I said, listen, no. I don't know Aikido. And she said to the sensei, listen, he's an expert and he's a hand-to-hand combat. He's a special forces guy. He has a real high level. And I was like, no, I not really. Don't believe every word she says. And I was participating. I was behaving. I was letting them throw me around. And then sometimes I was a little bit resisting and, fooling around, taking the guy to the ground. And he was really getting and then on the break, the big master said, oh, can we do it? I just sweeped his legs several times and he was on the ground and I armbarred him and choked him in front of his 200 students. And I said, listen, he whispered in my ear, I have nothing to teach you. So I'm trying to say that experience that you went through, and I'm not saying I'm the best, by the way, but a good brown belt in judo would throw almost any high-level black belt in Aikido to the ground several times. If there's a lot of striking with low kicks, like a good Thai boxer would destroy an Aikido person. And that's what I'm saying. So there's the way we use the biomechanics and functional movement. So if you look at Thai boxing, on the standing point, like superior striking with elbows, even if you look at the old school Burmese, when they use headbutts, okay? What they call Lithuanian in some countries.
Yeah, I think.
Where it's also with headbutts.
Yeah.
Man, these people will put you to sleep. They train really aggressive. Elbows, headbutts, clinch, bomb, That's serious power. Powerful knee shots, low kicks, shin. They block shin to shin. That's conditioning. Aikido guys are not conditioned to being taken hit real hard. And again, doesn't matter how good you are on stand-up and striking. If someone extremely, extremely strong, powerlifting type of guy that never did anything, but he grabs you, can he overpower your striking abilities with extreme force? Possible. I think there was a great example of, I think he was a former world champion, I think 7 times world's strongest man, the Polish guy, Posnowski, I'm not sure I'm saying his name right. And he went into one of the rings, I'm not sure UFC already, but he fought a Brazilian champion, a well-known figure, and he punched him a few times and just knocked him out. He had so much brute force. Technique was so-so. You can even find it on YouTube. World strong man beats in MMA fight, something like that. And you'll be surprised, and here you go. The guy is by far more superior in technique, by all means, but he couldn't stand the impact. And that comes to the crash test again. Not everybody survives in a car collision too, right? It all depends on angles. So if you get hit by a small car, it's okay. But if you get hit by a truck, not so good. So mass matters, strength matters. Strength with speed even more matters. And then if he has more cardio, that even more matters. And we can go into the science of physiology. And come on. I humbly say we are all able to get killed and seriously injured in any kind of training. The idea is to perform better under stress. Be explosive and use the element of surprise on the guy that is intending to attack you. So the element of surprise is the key as well. So it's a mental condition, not I'm ready. No, please, and then surprise. That's the I say one of the secrets. Be humble about it.
Something I wanted to make sure that we would talk about on record. You mentioned crash testing, and you mentioned biomechanics and the understanding of physicality a number of times. And during our first conversation, which was off record, you spoke a little bit about your program for instructors, and I wanted to ask if you could tell about that.
Well, so Protect has an academy that we educate people online. It's also face-to-face possible, but most of the last 2 years because of COVID, so it's been online. So to start is that I had a vision many, many years ago of there's so many talented and amazing skilled people out there that know based on experience martial arts or fitness or yoga or Pilates or security or counterterrorism or defense or close protection, but they don't really have a legit qualification that will be placed on their CV to say, I have achieved a certain accomplishment. So what I am doing, I reverse the engineering. Sorry. I am actually not doing the teaching. So when people say, how can you teach someone how to become an expert in karate or whatever online? I say, no, you got it wrong. I'm not doing any teaching. I am assessing knowledge. And they say, what do you mean? So for example, if I told you, you want to get a qualification that you're a qualified academic instructor in the field of Aikido, I would request you to do 20 videos of up to 3 minutes of certain techniques of throws, escapes, holds, rolls, how to roll, how to do Zampokemi, how to roll forward, backward. Now explain the muscle groups, explain the biomechanics, because a lot of people roll in their flat and they get slammed on the tatami, and a lot of people roll like a wheel. Zero impact when you roll, because I saw you roll, you really roll like so smooth. That is a skill of biomechanics. I can measure that on camera. So when you send me on WhatsApp a recorded video of you rolling and then breaking it down into stages, how you position your hands, how you position your feet, where do you position your head? Does your head hit the floor when you do that? Where do you take the impact? Does it go from the shoulder all the way down to the other side of the pelvic in a line? So how do you teach a roll? That is science by itself. By the way, it can be golf. How do I position my hands holding the club? How do I make that rotational move and swing and strike the ball? How do I position my legs, my knees? Can you teach me through a video? I will have an expert in golf observe the videos and tell me thumbs up, thumbs down. If there's critique, we send you a message, what needs to be prepared. So for example, many of the people teach okay, but their confidence in front of a camera is lacking. So their voice is monotonous. They're not looking with the eye into the camera. Their head is down. So building someone's confidence in front of a camera, to be a presenter in front of a group, to be a speaker in front of a group, is a key in success of being a great marketing person. So I'm not just giving you a paper that says, oh, you're qualified. I'm actually giving you amazing teaching, presentation skills that will boost your business. So you're doing the teaching, I am assessing. My whole academic system is under the Department of Education of the United States from the state of Maine. Every state has its own Department of Education under Washington, D.C. I have a license from the state of Maine. It's recognized worldwide, also in the United States. It's not a degree, it's a qualification, a diploma and certificate. In every country, they call it in a different category, but it's an academic one. So if you want to get hired by the city hall, or you want to get hired by a police, or you want to get hired by some agency, security, or something, that would be a legit qualification. Now, when you have a black belt in Aikido, you know all the moves. If you're a good personality, you can stand in front of a group and teach, but you don't have a paper to prove you're a good teacher. Am I right?
Sure. Yeah.
Most people in the MMA industry are real good fighters. Doesn't necessarily mean they really know how to teach. I don't know if you noticed, but we got Bas Rutten on board. Have you noticed on the instructors list? So we got Bas Rutten. Bas Rutten is an amazing, well-known character. You know, I mean, if people have a doubt that Bas does not know his job well, like we're talking, you know, probably one of the finest fighters ever of all times, and a great character. So the idea is the teaching and the program is really with a real personal one-on-one with me or expert instructors. And if we don't sell a diploma, you actually need to qualify all the tests and the videos. So people say to me, I'll send you money, can you send me a qualification? I say, no, you need to do the training. So just to make it clear, if you fail, you need to do another test, and that costs maybe another small fee. But overall, we're recognized. A lot of people love our program. Many reach out to us for online education because traveling is limited. It's the second best. And when I go face-to-face in front of people and they still want an academic qualification, they can still get it. So it can be done in front of the client, in front of the students, online where people send videos. I also had to reject a lot of people, just to let you know. So for example, in the last year, I had to reject at least 40 people that wanted to do some qualification in martial arts. So to give you a classic example, without going into names, one guy said to me, I'm an expert in Krav Maga, I've been doing it for 17 years. I'm a 3rd degree black belt in Shotokan. I said, okay, send one video for free. We'll analyze how you move, do some striking, shadow boxing on the bag or something. And he sent me videos of him striking like this. And the kicks were terrible. And I responded to him. I said, listen, I looked at your video, and unfortunately, your level of entry is way too low. So we have a filter. We don't accept everyone. And that's really important for your audience to understand. It's only if you're a real good caliber, you really have an experience, but you need to match that experience to a real legitimate qualification. It's a match. So you want to boost your career and say, hey, I have a belt, fine, but it doesn't say I have an academic qualification. So if I'm going to show you for 1 second, please. So we have, for example, guys that did a security course, and it says here, risk assessment, threat mitigation, public safety, organizational security. And here you go, take a look at this beauty. And so we have System Award Management from the United States, licensed by the state of Maine Department of Education with a license number. So this is a legit qualification. And anybody who thinks he's good enough is welcome to try to join. We don't take money from anybody if we don't accept them. So the idea of accepting someone real low level and then failing him with intent, we don't do that. We don't scam people. So it's really important that the client knows I rejected 40 people. If you knew how much money I had to say no to, I had to say no to a lot of money because these people really wanted to pay and get a certificate, but their level was just way too bad. So I had to reject 40 people in the last year. So that means almost every month, 2, 3 people. So a lot of people come to our doorstep. It's funny that a lot of people claim to be experts and masters, but they don't possess the skills to claim that. They think in their mind they are, but they actually don't. So when you're talking about a lot of people think they can fight 4, 5, 6 guys in, Kung Fu movies, that has nothing to do with reality. And the reality is in my education. I reject more people than I qualify.
And
so it's like giving people a real bad driving license.
And for people who want to find the program, where should they look for it?
I'll send you go to Protect Academy or Protect College on Google, and we'll show up a website, and I'll send you the link, and you share it with all your friends and with people that love your work. And then I think this is a value because when we started a long couple of minutes ago, you were saying, how do we know who is a real good instructor? And one of my ideas was to set a barometer, a scale. If people had the Protect diploma, of course, I'm not the only one. I'm not claiming, I'm the only soul on the planet that does this. There's a lot of great educational systems out there. So not saying, but I actually am very critical who I'm letting to join the program. And therefore, I'm doing a filter. In most places, possibly as a business orientation, would love to take your money and okay, so is there a high enough standard? I think there's not a high enough standard. I am trying to create that high enough standard. So when people, based on knowing my name and my brand, Protect, come to my doorstep, if I sign them off, they know what they're doing and they are really good instructors. And they will succeed in a very competitive market compared to others that are, and by the way, when parents look, that is, by the way, another way to assess. What qualifications do you have? So I would love to know what credentials a real good coach has if I was sending my son or daughter to train with someone. Oh, I have a belt. So You know, most coaches, do they ever go through some type of first aid? God forbid there's a real bad accident in training. I don't know. Maybe some, maybe nobody does. And how many of them have an academic qual? So for most, Israel is a regulated country where if you want to become an owner of a martial arts school, you would never be able to own a martial arts school legally, train people that will pay you money without having insurance. Impossible. And you will never be able to have insurance if you don't have an academic qualification, like one of the ones I have behind me over here on the wall that says I am a certified instructor under the Wingate faculty for sports and martial arts. So that's an academic institution recognized by the state from the Ministry of Sports and Education. And here I am, I'm under the Ministry of Education of the United States. So what I'm trying to say is that if you are going to spend money or invest, are you checking what qualifications does the instructor have? Is there a way to trace that qualification? Where did it come from? Just for an example. So I believe I am doing the right thing for society, trying to separate the real good guys, the legit guys that really sweat and work very hard, to compare to a lot of people that are really, I don't want to use the word frauds, but are like average. And it annoys you and annoys me. That's why we're having this discussion possibly. There's a lot of guys out there that claim a lot of stuff that has nothing to do with reality. This is how my whole program started. I wanted to do something different to set the record straight. And I hope I'm doing a good service. I know there's a lot of people that believe in the work I do and the work you're doing in presenting our discussion. Maybe someone will say, no, he has a big ego and he has an issue. Whatever, that's fine. It's okay with people disagreeing with me, like I said. I'm okay with any debate on any level of discussion. As long as it's humane, there's no bad words, we can disagree.
Cool. Well, I will wrap up the conversation soon, but there's a couple more questions I just wanted to ask before we end. So one of them actually I forgot to ask, but I'm really curious to hear about it. So we touched the subject of Krav Maga a number of times and then discussed that it can vary the quality of it and how realistic and effective it is. There's this idea floating around, again, the internet or conversations of people that there's a very big difference between Krav Maga in Israeli army versus what's taught to regular people. And I never had anyone to ask that question, whether that's true or not. And you have direct access to it. So, yeah.
In our training regime drills that we are conducting, actually tomorrow I'm going into the service for a couple of days, and I will be training one of the platoons, and we have an excellent Krav instructor, Alex, and he's following the full combat skill regime that I'm insisting on to build resilience for combat conditioning. Because, like I told you, the military spectrum, if there is a confrontation, it's relatively short. It's an explosive, it's a burst. And hopefully working on a small set of skills versus a large variety of movements. And don't forget, the other restriction is that almost all military personnel wear vest, helmet, there's equipment, there's an N4, there's a gun on many of them, and there's water pack, and it just weighs a lot. So imagine you needed to do Aikido or whatever sparring, whatever it was, with a 28 kilo on your back. How would that feel? 16, 18 hours a day. Well,
yeah, that would be very different.
You can give it a test. Go ahead and give it a test. Put on one of those training vests with heavy loads and try to roll over with Aikido, do grappling on the ground with a 28 kilo backpack. Go ahead. So I tell people, we have the rifle defense techniques. I don't know if you saw some of our videos, but where we hit with the rifle, we hit with the butt of the rifle, we hit with the magazine. So there's different techniques. So how to use the weapon as a cold weapon. If someone's trying to grab your weapon, take out your gun, or trying to stab you, you can lift your rifle and attack. So it's more military directed. The training would be very physical and demanding. it would be 6-8 moves compared to the civilian world where it's completely different orientation. It's more street possibilities versus actions of terrorism, although a lot of instructors do talk about domestic terrorism, and that's a good angle to discuss. A lot on knife attacks. And not just based on ideology and religion, I'll say it can just happen because of crime as well. So does a civilian need to learn how to know? I think that's one of the greatest highlights instructors need to teach. So a knife defense in the military and a knife defense in civilian life would be very close to each other, but if the guy that came with a knife to stab a soldier at a post, and he did defend and deflect, and he used his weapon legally, he would be able to use extreme force. Do you see what I'm saying? With his weapon. So that's why it's military. Law enforcement, relatively the same. If you look at videos in the United States or other police agencies around the world, if a guy comes with a knife trying to kill a policeman, would he legally, and again, from the hat of a witness expert, be entitled to use his firearm to shoot? In your country, I'm assuming it's the same. If some guy, crazy guy, went to stab a policeman, would he get shot? What do you think? Possibly?
Sorry, I was thinking about the last thing you said. Can you repeat that question?
If someone tried to stab policemen in your country,
right,
would that give them legitimate, justified force to use their firearm against someone trying to kill a policeman?
I presume so. I hope so. But
so that's how I'm saying. So let's say you're a policeman, you see your friend policeman next to you getting stabbed, multiple stabs. That would probably be legally justified in your country to take out a gun and neutralize the threat. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not being bad guys, but it is what it is. You need to stop the killing with all means. So the mentality of the military, border protection, policemen, guys that do diplomatic protection for, presidents and diplomats, and man, that's a high-risk job. If things go down, they need to perform under extreme measures in a very short time. They will be also surprised. So the element of surprise, so you need to condition yourself in the military. How would you react in extreme conditions? That's where I do all my research, performance under pressure, nonstop. So my methodology is embedded deep inside the service, where a lot of guys really love it and appreciate it. They believe it's saving lives. We have results from when they start training and the performance is so, and then in a matter of short days, they already are jumping a giant leap, like, oh, fighting so much better. And that builds confidence, and confidence gives you resilience. You know you can solve a problem. So and that goes back to that cycle of what came before the egg of the chicken. If I'm fat, I'm lazy, I'm not doing anything with my body, am I confident? I refuse to believe. If I'm using my body to train it to become a weapon, not because I'm a bad guy, because I just love myself and I love my family, I want to be really fit and healthy. I want to eat real clean food and maintain a real life, a real good lifestyle of nutrition. And it all comes back to, mentality. What is your choices? Everybody has in the morning the same choices. So that would be the difference. The civilians would do a lot of sparring and stuff and do a lot of grappling and stuff. Me, I would less invest in grappling. We would go to the ground sometimes with gear and without gear, just to let them understand it is a possible situation you may find yourself in. If I was on the ground and I couldn't do anything, I would reach out for the knife and use it, because I know guys are going to try to come and kill me possibly. So I'm not looking for fancy submissions. There's no arm bars and stuff. I'm on the ground, reach out for your gun, use it. I have a magazine, use the magazine as a cold, blunt weapon, smash the guy in the face, and so and so. So there is no dilemmas in the military versus civilians have consequences of lawsuits and, you may punch someone and he may die in a street fight and you may be held accountable, right?
Sure.
And that's where I come in again as a witness expert. Was that self-defense or was that brutality? I need to explain to the judge, no, that was self-defense. Your Honor, you can see in the camera, his hands were like this. He didn't say, you see, if you and I go like this, we're in a contract. We want to fight. But if I'm stay away from me, stay away from me, don't come close. If he forces himself on you, that it will be considered self-defense. So the analogy in a court, anywhere around in the world, I think plus minus, it depends on the judge, right? Plus minus. Self-defense is pretty much written into most constitutions. What is self-defense? So talking about self-defense, what are the consequences of using too much, over? There's consequences, legally possibly too, maybe a lot of money involved with lots of lawyers in court, maybe even prison. So you're getting here a lot of information for your audience in a very short time. I think they're going to hate me for this.
No, I'm sure they're going to love it, but you're right. There's a lot of information here. But I think speaking of that, I think that is a good moment to wrap things up. And that's why I want to ask the last question. It's a question I like in general. So that if you were to send a message to a lot of people throughout the world, and everyone would read that message, and they wouldn't necessarily follow whatever you said, but they would deeply think about it and reflect about it, what message would you send to people?
Well, you're asking a philosophical question. I would say be patient, listen, hug, love, kiss your children. If you have a wife, kiss your wife. Cherish the things that really, really matter. Love yourself, and just be a kind person. If you're a really good personality and you shine, you're a positive thinker, you're not a negative thinker, you don't blame everybody else. So if you're blaming everybody else, it's your fault, it's your fault. You're not taking responsibility. Just be kind, just be nice, smile. It costs zero to smile to someone, and hopefully you'll get a smile back. And you'll open doors and have a dialogue, and it's okay to disagree. I enjoy having a proper discussion about things we disagree. It can be on COVID, it can be on vaccines, it can be on science, medicine, history, and I'm an open-minded guy. I read a lot. I think people should be more kind. And, the world is going mad, and I think we need to just a lot more love one each other and hug one each other. It has nothing to do with my personality in the military. People think I'm a teddy bear right now, but I actually am I'm a real peaceful guy. I'm like, I just think of myself like a real kind guy. I help people that, if I see poor people, I donate money. I'm not saying this to brag, but I'm just like, I'm willing to give, so I'll give. If I have clothes that I don't use, I'll donate it. If we had toys from my children when they were younger, we would give children that are unprivileged, that didn't have the ability to have good toys. And I think that's the education thing that we had in the house, that it's really important to be able to give to people that don't have the opportunity. Back in my days, I would train kids that had no money, and I would you can train for free. Yeah, you can train for free. So it was like giving back to society. I had my own demons and struggles in the past, but I'm a resilient guy, so I never complained about it. It just made me stronger. But I think the most powerful message would just be hug, love, smile, straight to the point. That's it. And be kind. Yeah. Don't get upset. Take it easy. I hope that influences people.
Nice. Well, thank you. Wrapping things up, I just, again, wanted to say thank you very much. I really appreciate your time, and I'm very happy about the connection we made. I am already thinking in the future, if I were ever able to visit Israel, I'd love to spend some time with you.
Or if I'm having a seminar somewhere in Europe, you're more than welcome to try.
That'd be great. I'd love to do some crash
testing. If I will have something. Yeah. I will possibly be in Europe when things get better. We're talking about maybe the UK. Things have settled down with all the restrictions. So if I go to the UK, then one of my top instructors, George, I'll be able to go there, and you're more than welcome. You'll come, and
that'd be great.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, as I said,
Okay.
I'd love to to go through some crash testing with your guidance and experience, the the way it's supposed to self-defense is supposed to work. So
It would be an excellent drill because it would straighten, it would calibrate your barometer. Are the things that you have done from your past till the current day, are they suitable for self-defense?
right.
And you'll see everything happens real fast. So, we'll see. So let's put it this way. If I have anything that I know of, I'll let you know. Definitely. And we'll have to invite it. And thank you for having me on your podcast. I love your work. I think you're doing a great service to a lot of people out there to humbly and honest opinion. And even if people disagree with what I say, I apologize to the people that may disagree. I'm not looking to piss anyone off. They can come for a hug if they want. And just keep on smiling. That's it. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.